This is Jack Moelmann, and we're here in Providence, Rhode Island. It's just barely the 5th of July, 2011. That means it's about 20 minutes after 12 midnight. And with us we have a terrific organist named Jelani Eddington, who did a terrific concert this afternoon with another person we have in one of these interviews, Chris Gorsuch, at the Shanklin Music Hall. And the convention, like I say, is in Providence, Rhode Island. We're right now at the Westin Hotel. So, Jelani, welcome to this recording session.
Thank you.
And we'll see what great things you might have for whoever happens to be watching this. How did you get started in music?
Well, I got started in music when I was about 4 years old. I started studying piano lessons. My mother was a music teacher, and she thought it would be a good idea for me to study piano, as she had. She also studied the organ as well. And so I started with piano, and then after a few years of that, started to study organ. I heard a theater organ at the Paramount Music Palace in Indianapolis when I was about 8 or 9. And from that moment on, I was pretty much hooked with the theater organ. I started to study. Eventually, I studied with John Ferguson, who was my instructor for about 5 or 6 years, and learned just a tremendous amount from him. He was a wonderful, wonderful instructor, and sort of took things from there. But yeah, I started off age 4 on the piano.
And then you in ATOS, you were in the Young Organist competition, and what were you, the youngest? How did that work?
That in fact, you were the one that called me up on the phone that night. It was back in 1988, and I was the overall winner. We had overall and divisional winners at the time, and you called me up. I don't remember when. It would have been maybe in January or February, something like that. Whenever it was, and you told me. I was very excited, though, as I remember. Just running around the house. I couldn't believe that that was the case, but that's what happened, and it was great fun.
And it's been like that ever since.
Been like that ever since, that's right.
Let's see, now you've been studying with John Ferguson, who at this convention was put into the Hall of Fame.
That's right.
You accepted his award as one of his students. It's amazing how some of this stuff turns around.
That's right.
Equally talented on the piano.
Well, thanks. Piano, as I said, piano was my first instrument, so I enjoy doing piano work and organ work, and piano's a wonderful instrument, organ's a wonderful instrument, so whatever is available is what I like to do.
Recently, you've been pairing up with Chris Gorsuch, and you become the dynamic duo. You prefer doing things solo, or you like the duo situation? I know you play solo during the concerts, but teaming up with somebody, or would you just rather be on your own?
I enjoy doing both. What I love about the theater organ is how versatile they are. So you can do, whether it's as a solo performance or as a duo or even in an ensemble organ with orchestra, band, whatever. There are just so many different possibilities. And I started working with Chris about 5 or so years ago, and that's a lot of fun because it gives us an opportunity to do pieces that we couldn't do. There are certain limitations. You only have 2 hands and 2 feet, so if you have a second performer and a second instrument like a piano, there are just so many different possibilities that you can explore, and it's been great fun working with Chris. He's got a lot of wonderful ideas for arranging and repertoire, and he challenges me, and I think I probably challenge him at times too, hopefully in a good way. And so it's been a lot of fun.
Now you've got a book out.
I have 2 books out.
Two volumes.
2 volumes, that's right.
And they are about what?
The 2 volumes are The Art of Theater Organ Arranging. And I started this project in 2009. Actually started writing in late 2008. The books sort of do 2 things. The first part of the book contains printed out arrangements of theater organ classics. So there are 5 pieces, 5 musical selections in each book, fully written out with the arrangement. the second part of the book is probably, at least in my view, the more important part, and that contains a lot of instructional information about how to put an arrangement together. The reason I decided to write on arranging is because when you think about what you have to do to arrange, you have to have a mastery of the major components of good theater organ playing. So you need to know about registration, you need to know about phrasing, you need to know the basics of music theory and harmony, and all of those things have to come together to make a good and interesting arrangement. So sort of doing the book on that topic gave an opportunity to really cover a lot of ground with instructional material as well as just having the printed arrangement. So it's been a fun project. I did the first volume in 2009, released the second volume a year later in 2010, and currently working on a volume 3, and hope to have that finished before too much more time goes by.
How many CDs or recordings do you have?
As of right now, I think about 40, 41, 42, somewhere around.
You're trying to beat George Wright?
I'm really not trying to beat anybody. I enjoy recording. It's an opportunity to do a lot of different things. The art of recording is very different from the art of performing, and you're sort of, with a recording, you're really literally making a record of the art form in a certain way. So there's a tremendous amount of repertoire, obviously, to do, and a lot of interesting things to be done with recording. So I've always enjoyed doing that.
Dealing with public performance now, what would you say was the most exciting thing that you ever did in terms of both the venue and the instrument, and with the audience and your performance, everything working, everything just came off perfect? What do you think's the best one you've done so far?
Well,
today doesn't count.
Today doesn't count. The last one I ever gave. How about that? Well, I guess I would answer that in a couple of ways. In terms of convention performances, I remember a program that I did about 7 years ago in Milwaukee. It was on an organ that was very new at the time, a five manual Walker organ, and I had just completed a recording project that had a lot of sort of big production number, barn burner numbers on it, and so I ended up doing a lot of those same pieces for the concert. And I remember, for whatever the reason, I guess the stars aligned in a certain way, and it all came off well. It was very well received, and I always think positively about that. But sort of more a general way of answering that question would be not so much a specific performance, but a specific event. There's a yearly series in Joliet, the Rialto Fest concert series, and that's been for the last 15, I think this was our 15th year being involved in that, and it's a great series. It involves multiple organists, a band of some sort of configuration, either a wind ensemble or a jazz ensemble, jazz band, whatever the case may be, piano, and all of those things come together, and that's been a lot of fun because, again, it gives us a chance to use the organ in different ways, both as a solo instrument, as an accompanimental instrument, in ensemble with the band. So that's been a lot of fun. I've had the privilege of being involved in that, I think, about 7 or 8 years now, and that's always a lot of fun. It's something I always look forward to every year.
Let's try it the other way. What's the most challenging, maybe the biggest disaster that you would hope would never occur again? You don't have to necessarily name the place, but if you want, you could.
Well, I think the biggest disaster that we ever had was, actually it was fairly recently. It was a dedication concert. It was the inaugural program for this organ. And the night before the concert happened, as we brought the lift down, unbeknownst to anybody, the cable that went from the Uniflex computer, from the back of the console into the Uniflex computer, got tangled around the lift mechanism, the gear mechanism, and literally ripped the cable just completely clean through. It's, if you imagine, back in the days of the original organs and the great big main cable, it was just like that had been completely shredded. The problem was nobody knew about that, and so the next day at concert time, full house, over 1,000 people there, and I was performing with Chris, and Chris went out just to double check a few things, and when he played up a C major scale, instead of getting every note in sequence, it was just this randomized cacophony of sound, and unfortunately, because there was no time left, the concert had to be canceled, and then fortunately we were able to reschedule it for just a couple of weeks later. But that was, you're in your tux, you're ready to go out there and do a performance, and then at the very last second it gets canceled. So that was not a lot of fun. That was the first time that had ever happened, and so I would say that's probably one of the biggest disasters that we've been through.
Well, the weather is nice in San Diego.
That is always a good thing. And it was beautiful that weekend.
See, we got to say where it was.
That's right.
Okay, sort of one of the last questions. Where haven't you played that you think you would want to as some big, a goal of an organ, a venue, a situation that you haven't done that you would look forward to doing?
Well, I have been very lucky in that I've gotten a chance to play a lot of different places, and that's something that I always really do enjoy, because I like the travel. I like new instruments and meeting new people. In terms of places that I haven't been, there are a number of overseas venues that I haven't been to yet. One of the maybe not necessarily play a concert on, but one of the organs that I'd like to visit is the Wurlitzer organ that's in the department store in Japan, just because it's such a unique instrument and such a unique setting. I don't think they use it all that much now. I may be wrong about that, but I always thought it would be fun to go there and see that. And anytime I have a chance to go overseas or go abroad and do any sort of traveling like that, I always enjoy it. So that would be some place that I think would be great fun to see.
How about in the U.S. though?
In the U.S., well, there are a lot of instruments that I haven't gotten a chance to play. Most of the ones that are used frequently for concert work, I've had a chance to play by now, and
Can't single out one.
I can't single out anything right off the top of my head, but again, there are certainly a lot of instruments that I haven't gotten to, and look forward to having that chance at some point.
What would you like to say to young people that are just thinking about getting into music, getting into the organ, be it classical, theater, whatever, without getting too philosophical, but...
I would never get philosophical.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I guess I would say two things. First of all, as far as music is concerned, absolutely go for it. You'll never be sorry that you were involved in music, whether it's the organ, the piano, the clarinet, the bassoon, whatever the instrument is. It is a wonderful thing to be involved in. It will always be with you your entire life, whether you study it for 6 months or 6 years or make a profession in music. You will never be sorry that you were involved in it in some way. It enhances virtually every aspect of your life. Personally, professionally, my life is so much more has been so much more fulfilled because I've had involvement in music, in addition to the other things that I've done. For anyone who's interested in the theater organ, I would say it's a fantastic instrument. And as I've said a couple of times now, what I really like about it is the versatility, the fact that you can play so many different kinds of music. You can play contemporary music, today's top 40. You can do classical music. You can do orchestral music, big band, swing, jazz, blues, whatever you want. And if it's a piece of music that could be performed by an orchestra, by a band, by a jazz combo, any sort of grouping of instruments like that, it'll work on the theater organ. There are not very many instruments that can say that, and the theater organ is very unique in that respect. So that would be what I would say to a young person. I've had a great experience in working with a lot of the young enthusiasts and young performers through the ATOS summer camp program over the last few years, and it's so refreshing to see them involved in it, because you see and you hear a lot of new ideas, a lot of things that are coming from younger people that maybe as an older organist or coming from a different perspective just haven't thought of. So it's great to see and hear what the young people are coming up with. And so, to anyone who is thinking about getting involved with the theater organ, with ATOS, any of that sort of thing, I would say absolutely you won't be sorry that you did.
Well, now you've got another side of your life, and that's as an attorney, lawyer to us common people. Is there any relationship with that? Are you going to go back into that more full time than you are, or you like doing the music more than being a lawyer?
Well, I wouldn't say I always shy away from making that comparison, because I try to explain to people it's sort of like a left brain, right brain kind of thing. I'm a Gemini, and if you look up that in the dictionary, there will be a picture of me right by the dictionary entry, because I've always had that sort of dual thing going on, where I have the musical interests and then also academic interest in school. I studied political science and languages in school, and then I went on to law school after that, and I enjoy both things very, very much. I've always enjoyed, in the last 11 years that I've been an attorney, I've enjoyed that very much. Obviously enjoy the music very, very much as well. Since 2003, I've been full-time as a musician, as I still am. I do practice law a little bit on a part-time basis, and that's sort of the balance right now. And part of the challenge since the time that I went to law school and became an attorney, I think the biggest challenge career-wise has been trying to find an appropriate balance between music and law, because they're the two things that I really enjoy doing. And for a time I practiced full-time in a large firm. Had a really good experience doing that, but the balance was tipped very heavily in the direction of the legal practice, and I wanted to rebalance things and do more with music, which I've done, and doing a little bit of legal work now satisfies that side of my brain, and certainly enjoying doing pretty much full-time music at the moment. So I guess time will tell what the ultimate balance is going forward.
Well, good. We appreciate your time being here.
It's been my pleasure.
You've got a great career behind you. You've got a great career ahead of you. Lots of things that you can do, and we'll be looking forward to it. So here we are with Jelani Eddington, July 5th, just a little bit after midnight, in Providence, Rhode Island, at the Westin Hotel. And this is Jack Moelmann saying thank you again, Jelani.
Thanks, Jack. It's been a pleasure.